Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here this morning. Today, I do want to make a slightly heretical point, which is that I think it is time we moved on from financial inclusion. Now, for many of us, probably hearing about financial inclusion for many years. Since 2010, financial inclusion has been a huge focus for many of us in our community. Today, I want to make the argument that we must move on from financial inclusion because it has not fulfilled the promise of making the lives of Africa's poor any better. First of all, let's define what financial inclusion is. According to the World Bank, financial inclusion means that individuals and businesses have access to useful and affordable financial products and services that meet their needs, particularly with respect to transactions, payments, savings, credit, and insurance delivered in a responsible and sustainable way. But the question is, are these what the people really need? Or is this simply a way to make the banks richer with cheap deposits, right? Is this a way to get the government some more revenue because they can pry into our accounts? And is this a way for us to guarantee continued access to billions of dollars in development finance that, falls at first class and coffees and all that, while nothing materially changes for the poor? See, in my country, we've got about 70 million adults with access to a bank account. But the vast majority of these bank accounts are empty. Financial inclusion has meant, I'm not sure if you have the picture here. I'm just going to continue. Financial inclusion has meant that the poor are unable to access their money when it matters most. And I have this picture of, a bunch of people in our country who a week to the elections, when everything shuts down, and we have an election that lasts a month, because of financial inclusion, they couldn't access the money that they had put in the bank account. And that is just the beginning of the problem. Naira keeps dwindling in value as inflation continues to rise unabated. They're not getting an effective savings rate that matches inflation. 60% of their income, which continues to remain stagnant and less valuable, will go to buy food. Financial inclusion doesn't change anything about that. Financial inclusion doesn't change anything about unemployment, right? 25, double digits unemployment across Africa. In my country, depending on who you believe, 25 to 40%. Perhaps the only thing that has changed with financial inclusion is that we've managed to digitally include the loan sharks. And so they mount our poor with unsustainable debt. That is really the legacy of financial inclusion in our countries, if we were to say the truth. So financial inclusion is not meeting their needs. It's not changing their lives. And that's why I say, again, it is time for us to move on from financial inclusion. So if we don't have financial inclusion, then what should we do now, right? Because we still have to have a conference. Well, more than half of our population in Africa is under the age of 30. And that means that rather than giving them bank accounts, we should be giving them the tools to be productive. Many of them have hopes, they have dreams, they have the energy, they have the time to be productive contributors to the economy. And that's why I think our priority, rather than handing them financial products that make MasterCard and Visa richer, is that we hand them economic inclusion. They don't want to be financially included with empty bank accounts. They want to be economically included so they can earn money in their bank accounts. They don't want to be a receptacle for debt and handouts. They want an opportunity to contribute to global GDP so they can earn a living wage by doing so. And then we can hand them financial services to optimize their earnings. So how can we economically include them? Well, first of all, we have to be able to invest deeply in the infrastructure that enables inclusion. We have to move away from these $10 loans and help them buy real assets that can allow them to participate in the gig economy. We have to give them the ability to get laptops. We have to invest billions of dollars in large infrastructure projects that allow them to be able to connect to the digital economy. Internet, broadband, data servers, none of these financial inclusion $10 interventions. We're done with that. And most importantly, we have to invest in the education system because the truth is an investment in education today yields returns in tomorrow's tax base. And with the world becoming a unit, we are able to help many of them earn foreign exchange by working remotely on the internet. That is what we should be focused on, not $10 loans at 40% interest rates. Now, it is when they're able to earn that we can then provide them financial products and services, right? That enable them to buy a home and to build financial base, that enable them to invest in their country and then plan for their children's future. But we're putting the cart before the horse by feeding them disastrous financial products before we give them the tools to be productive contributors to the global economy. Since I have a few minutes left, I want to end with a story about financial inclusion. Thank you for putting up that picture. That's me over there. And that was in the middle of COVID. So what am I doing during COVID over there? And I had just made perhaps the biggest gamble of my career when, right as the rest of the world was shutting down, I took all my funds and put them in this company called Move. And at the very wrong time, because the whole world was shutting down and I was funding Uber cars. But again, I'm not very normal, as some people will tell you. So, Move started by helping Uber drivers buy a car so they could drive to earn on the Uber network. And the drivers pay every week, to cover the cost of their drive to earn. They still get a living wage that enables them access to health insurance, enables them access to lending and credit, regular income. And then the beautiful thing about this is at the end of the term, which is typically 30 to 36 months, they drive that vehicle home. It becomes their first real asset. And we started out with Uber cars, and now today we've expanded to enable this revenue-based financing model for different classes of mobility assets, including trucks and motorbikes, scooters, tuk-tuks, whatever it is. And, we realize, and this is the funny thing about financial inclusion, that about economic inclusion, that it is not just, in the poorest of the poor in Africa who need it. We've been able to expand this model to Ghana, to India, right? It turns out even in developed markets, when our brothers and sisters go over to London, they have no access to any kind of economic resource, and we're able to help them start their lives by giving them their first assets. And today, from that one car, we've powered over 15 million rides. We've helped hundreds of drivers fully purchase their mobility assets. We've put over 13,000 mobility assets on the road, hundreds of millions of dollars in the hands of mobility entrepreneurs. You know the beautiful thing about this? Over a third of these entrepreneurs are women. So we're not leaving the women out either. So I want to say, please let's move on from financial inclusion. Let's stop investing in creating wallets for poverty. And instead, let's put money in the people's pockets. Thank you.